boys and girls bathrooms, boys and girls sports, not protecting our girls, but also just the simple facts of our schools are failing our children. The recent NAEP results for Virginia showed that 31% of fourth graders can read with proficiency. That is shameful. And you know what's worse? It gets worse by the time they get to 8th grade. Then it's only 29%. Virginia used to be one of the best states in the country for education, but no more. We need to elect Republicans. Okay, we have an amazing program tonight, so I'm going to get off the stage, but before I do, I want to make a special request. I really hope somebody here might be inspired after tonight to start a Moms for Liberty chapter in Fairfax, because we don't have one. So just so that you know, Moms for Liberty started less than 5 years ago. 3 moms in the living room decided to get together and do something to help work with the school boards better. Today, they have chapters in 48 states. They have over 130,000 members, over 300 chapters. They don't have a chapter in Fairfax County. And I tell you what, we need a chapter in Fairfax County. So please. Okay, so if you're willing and if you're interested, stand up, turn around, talk to Tina. Yay. All right, thank you. Okay, I am going to step aside. I am super excited because we are going to hear from David and Thomas Jensen, who are going to come up and sing the national anthem. Then we will have an invocation from our dear friend, Pastor Will Archer. And then after that, Yuko Stack will come up for the Madison Minute. So with that, boys, you ready? Come on up.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Man, let's remain standing as we go to God in a word of prayer. It truly is an honor that we get this chance to be here together. And as I get ready to go to God in a word of prayer, we're standing here as mothers and fathers, as brothers and sisters, as fellow Virginians, all made in the image of Almighty God. So let's go to God right now. Our God and Father, I thank you for your love and for your mercy. You chose, God, to knit every single one of us together in our mother's wombs. God, you chose the time and the places where we live, and you chose to bring us to this place. God, I pray for your blessing over this gathering. God, we thank you so much for our Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Earle-Sears, who will be our 75th governor of Virginia in 32 days. God, we thank you so much for our great brother, John Reed, who will be our next lieutenant governor in 32 days. Amen. We thank you, God, for our Attorney General, Jason Miyares, who will be reelected to continue to serve as our Attorney General in 32 days. And God, as we think about that, we think about what you said in Isaiah 32, where you said, see, a king will reign in righteousness, and rulers will rule with justice. Each one will be like a shelter from the wind and a refuge from the storm, and the streams of water in the desert, and the shadow of a great rock in a thirsty land. But the noble make noble plans, and by noble deeds they stand. God, help our leaders, our next governor and lieutenant governor, our attorney general. Help the House of Delegates to have a majority of those who stand for righteousness, those who will be a shelter from the wind. God, I thank you, God, for the words you put in our brother, President Lincoln, the words that you gave him, those timeless words, with malice towards none and charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive to finish the work. Be with us here in this Commonwealth these next 32 days. Be with this program. Most of all, God, be with our children and the countless million unborn children who will come into this Commonwealth. May they come into a Commonwealth that is filled with peace and prosperity, with leaders that stand up for righteousness and justice. And may we all be stirred by your word to do what is right and to honor you. Guide and direct all who are here, and be with us now as always. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. You may be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Benjamin Rush once said, thank you. Dr. Benjamin Rush once said, quote, "It is the power of parents and teachers to render the rising generation the best or the worst of citizens," end quote. This is particularly relevant for parents of children with autism. Parental rights are crucial in this journey. As parents, we are the primary advocates and educators of our children. Understanding their unique needs and strengths better than anyone else. When we have the authority to make choices about our child's education and support, we can tailor approaches that truly benefit them. Supporting parental rights not only empowers us, but also helps our children develop confidence and resilience. Their lived experience, love, and advocacy are not obstacles to progress. They are essential to creating a world where neurodiverse children are understood, supported, and empowered to thrive. This fosters a generation that is not just aware of their capabilities, but also prepared to contribute positively to society. By advocating for these rights, we ensure that our children can thrive and become compassionate citizens. Thank you.
Good evening, fellow warriors. My name is Marianne Jensen. Tina called me at 3 o'clock and asked if I would speak, so here I am. I was just going to hold the clock and, smile. Good evening, moms and dads, grandparents, and patriots who refuse to let bureaucrats steal our kids' futures. Thank you for being here at this Moms for Liberty Town Hall. I am a mom from Prince William County. I have 4 children, 2 of them which sang this evening. Thank you. So proud of them. I am proud to say that I was the founding chapter of our Prince William County Moms for Liberty chapter. I started it from nothing. I led it with passion for 2 years and then passed the torch to my incredible vice chair, Jen Donnelly, who unfortunately is not here tonight. She is doing an amazing job as chair. I'm still an active member, fighting alongside Jen and our team to protect our children. Tonight, I'm sounding a wake-up call for Virginia and rallying you to action because our children and our parental rights are under attack. Virginia's schools are in crisis, and it's a direct assault on our families. Boys and girls' bathrooms and locker rooms threaten our daughters' safety and privacy. Yet school boards push these policies while silencing parents who object. In Fairfax, parental rights were trampled when a teacher assisted a girl in getting an abortion without notifying her parents, a shocking betrayal of trust. Critical race and queer theory sneaks into classrooms under equity labels, teaching division over unity. Libraries stock books that confuse kids about gender while banning classics that celebrate our values. Our tax dollars fund this nonsense. From Loudoun County's scandals to Fairfax's radical overreach, Virginia's schools are battlegrounds where our voices are ignored and our kids are targeted. Let me make it personal. My son, a junior in a Prince William County high school and vice chair of the Turning Point USA chapter, he is supporting his friend Sam, who is here tonight, the chapter's president, in starting a club at their high school to give kids a space to debate ideas and stand up for conservative values. But the pushback has been relentless. No teacher would sponsor them, fearful of persecution from colleagues for supporting conservative students. Conservatives in our schools are afraid to stand up, terrified of backlash. The boys have had to jump through hoop after hoop, endless red tape just to exist. Worse, other students are now circulating a petition to shut down the chapter and ripping down their posters advertising the group. This isn't bureaucracy, it's censorship. Our kids are being silenced. They're told their beliefs don't belong, while radical ideologies get free rein. As a mom, it breaks my heart to see my son and his friends fight so hard just to be heard. But we can fight back, and Moms for Liberty is our weapon. I saw it when I founded our chapter in Prince William County, parents coming together to challenge the status quo. Jen Donnelly is carrying that torch here in Prince William County, or not here, in Prince William County, leading our chapter to pack school board meetings, expose bad policies, and demand accountability. Nationally, Moms for Liberty has flipped districts that it once ignored us. My call to you is clear. If your county has no chapter, start one. If it does, join in. Don't just show up, dive in. These chapters are command centers, and we need every corner of Virginia armed with moms and dads like us. And to our kids in the audience or at home, be brave, like my son and his friend Sam. Start a Turning Point USA chapter at your school. It's tough, but it's worth it. You'll find allies, build leadership, and give your peers a voice. Talk to your parents, connect with Turning Point's resources, and don't let fear stop you. With November 4th closing in, we have a chance to turn the tide. We must do everything to elect Winsome Earle-Sears as governor. We must do everything to elect John Reed as lieutenant governor. And Jason Miyares as attorney general. Winsome is a Marine veteran. She will put parents first and restore sanity to our schools. John Reed, with his Reagan roots, will fight for our rights and values. And Jason Miyares, our fearless AG, is already battling radical policies. Let's give him 4 more years to protect our kids and our rights. Polls show tight races, but apathy is creeping in. This election is about the daughter whose privacy is at risk, the son silenced for his beliefs, the parents betrayed by schools. Knock doors. Every conversation counts. Make phone calls. Every ring matters. Host coffee events, write letters, share stories like mine. Moms for Liberty has the tools. Grab them tonight. When doubt creeps in, remember, we're not just saving schools, we're saving our kids' futures. We're building a Virginia where our daughters are safe, where our sons are heard and parents are respected. So rise up, start that chapter, knock that door, make that call for our children, for our Commonwealth, for liberty. Thank you and God bless you all. Let's get to work.
Hi everyone, my name is Emery Siegler, and I am the Capitol Field representative for Turning Point USA's Club America school program. I work with students all throughout Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Delaware, a few of them being in this crowd. I have been so excited being able to work with all the students in starting all these new chapters, and as a former president of my high school Turning Point USA chapter, it is an honor that I get to have. I wanted to briefly share with you guys more about our Club America program. Our Club America program for high school students is founded in free market, capitalism, limited government, and a love for our nation. We are nonpartisan, and we have a strong belief that leaders are not just found in adulthood, but are built before college, in our nation's students and youngest members. High school students have a voice and should have a place to not only speak their beliefs, but connect with other students. Our program is student-led and can be catered to the schools and students' needs, such as their schedules and the themes that they find important. Turning Point USA provides kits for different activism themes with buttons, stickers, and posters that are free to all of our students. Students will also receive the full support of a local field representative and have the opportunity to attend various conferences hosted by Turning Point USA. Our chapters also take part in various community service initiatives, such as Letters to Veterans, supporting small businesses, and our Flag the Classroom program. We also host social events such as game and food nights for all of our students to feel welcome, and leadership building opportunities such as learning to speak in front of people and networking conferences. To start a chapter, students only need 3 people to sign a chapter charter agreement. Any student in this area will have my full support, and I'm so happy to be able to help all the students in this community push back from any negative feedback they may get from their schools, and I'm so happy to have this job and to work with all the students. For any students in this crowd tonight or in the community listening that have not started a chapter, I strongly encourage you to speak up and start a chapter. It is one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I encourage you to not be afraid and to stand true for what you believe in. Thank you all for having me tonight, and I hope that you all have a blessed night.
Is it working? Oh, great. Oh my gosh, look at the youth of America is strong. Between those young men singing and the young lady leading the chapter and the other young man, Sam, wherever you are starting a TPUSA chapter, we should have hope for the future of America and the future of Virginia with young people like that in suits. They're wearing suits. It's amazing. I'm Tina. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty, and it is my very distinct pleasure to be here tonight with you. I just want to take a minute to do something before we start our panels. Is there anyone here that is either a current school board member or running for school board? If you are, please stand. Nobody? I've never held a town hall where there wasn't a single person. It's not election year for school board. Still. And they're all Democrats. Oh, they're across the streets? Say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. Oh my gosh, I'm so very sorry. So let's try this. Have you ever run for school board and you're in here? Please stand. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. All right, so we have a bunch of losers. I'm just kidding. I'm not a stand-up comic, but I did lose my school board race, so I can also share that with you guys. Thank you for being courageous. I know, yep, I walk around like that sometimes too. Thank you for being courageous and running for school board. People need a choice. Even if you're in a solid blue district, people need a choice to have their vote heard for conservative values to take back your school districts. And I say don't give up. Like, keep trying, keep knocking doors. There's always hope. I just want to thank the Moms for Liberty staff for all that they do to put these town halls together. Our chapter members that are here, unfortunately, a lot of our Virginia chairs, one is out of the country, one is sick, one had a football game with her son, kids first, and so we have some members here, but some of our leaders are missing, and we do miss them greatly tonight. We're going to have two panels for you tonight. The first one is going to be what I like to call the problem panel. It's parents from Loudoun, Fairfax, and Prince William, and they're going to explain what the heck is going on in the schools. And then the second panel is the solution panel. It is your elected officials and your candidates that are going to offer up solutions to help save Virginia. So if the Chris and Ann and the parent panel can come join me, let's have a conversation. Oh, and then for those that are here to ask questions, we do that at the end. We open it to the public. Anybody can ask a question. All viewpoints are welcome. And you come up to the microphones then, and you have your elected officials and your candidates will be the ones answering questions. Hello, everybody. Hello. These microphones work so good. Okay, problem panel. Let's start here. Introduce yourself, what county you're from, I think that's important, and just tell us a little about why you're up here.
My name is Stephanie Lundquist Aurora. I'm from Fairfax County, sadly, and I'm here. I've been active I'm also the chapter leader for the Independent Women's Network, so we happily work with Moms for Liberty. So anyways, I've been really involved since 2020. I was homeschooling my kids during the school closures, and then I kind of got into seeing all the dysfunction that was happening. And I could tell you dozens and dozens of stories, so I'll just open with one that I think is really a reflection of parents' rights and the failure of schools to alert parents on certain things. So when my son was in middle school, and all of the stories I hear are, I think I'm a stories carrier. I try to represent the stories of young people, especially who come to me and tell me about what's happening in their schools. And some of them are from my own children, and some of them are from other children. In fact, some of them are from other children that have parents in the audience. But anyways, my son came to me and said, in middle school, I had a lesson on white privilege in school. And nobody had alerted me about this, and this is during the time that the left was telling us that there was no critical race theory being taught in schools. So I contacted the principal, and I said, I just heard that you administered in social emotional learning a lesson on white privilege to my children. I think that's really problematic. I would like to review this lesson. And as a parent, you have the right, it's called the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment. You have the right to review curriculum in a timely manner. Well, the principal apparently didn't think so, or it was probably that she wasn't trained on this legislation, as they're not in Fairfax County. I don't believe they're trained on this. So she sent my request to the Freedom of Information Act office, which, by the way, if you're from one of these counties in Northern Virginia, you know that they play a lot of games. They charge you egregious amounts of money. They make you play all of these waiting games on things. So eventually, even with back and forth, I paid $280 for this lesson. And I published about it in the Federalist. So you can, I'm also a contributor to the Federalist, Washington Examiner, Independent Women's Features. So I write a lot of these stories in these places. So I paid the $280 and I published on it. And then I also filed a federal PPRA complaint, which is they took it up after Trump was elected. And that's ongoing. So I think that we're going to have a win on that. So that's just one story of so many.
Thank you. Yes, when we were talking before, I said, do you have 3 or 4 stories? And she got to like story number 27. And I was like, just 3. So that was one, and we'll probably get to a couple more. Will you please introduce yourself?
My name's Martha Cutzinger. I'm in Prince William County. I do not currently have kids in school. I think that's obvious. But in 2017, I was involved in our school board in a getting rid of someone way. And that person, he was the chair of the school board at the time, and he was introducing the concept of trans kids using bathrooms. It went back that far. And I was gobsmacked by that. And at the same time, my older child was starting to look at colleges. She was going to be graduating in 2018. And I started realizing what the heck has happened on college campuses since I was there a long time ago. So I just became obsessed with trying to understand where we were at, where this was coming from. I discovered James Lindsay. I don't know if any of you all are familiar with him. Yeah, so I've become a student of James Lindsay since then, especially during COVID. I used that time to really dive into his stuff, and have made it kind of a mission of mine to inform anyone who will listen, friends, neighbors, Facebook people I don't know, about where we are, how we got here, and that, it's Marxism. And now what queer theory is doing to schools and how awful it is. And so I don't have specific stories to tell from school, but I'll tell you a recent one. One of my kids has come to be aware, I'm trying to be very careful how I state this story. She's come to be aware of a girl, 22-year-old girl, who transitioned to a boy. She's 22 now, and I don't know how old she was when she had a hysterectomy and a double mastectomy, but before she was 22, obviously. And the years of hormones, drugs, cross-sex hormones, all the kinds of things that these kids get put on today, have resulted in her developing a liver disorder, and the cure for that she's allergic to. So the girl's dying, and she knows she's dying, and she's acknowledged that she's dying, and I'm assuming that she has regret about the transition, but these are the stories that you don't hear about. And I think these things happen more often than not, or will happen as these kids are on lifelong drugs that they're not told about at the time that they make the choice to transition. So and this is something I just learned about last week, so I'm even more motivated now to help Virginians understand what's in store if, God help us, those in the front row here are not our next leaders next year.
Thank you.
My name is Ann Miller. I'm a parent in Loudoun County. I've taught in Fairfax County, Loudoun County, and I've homeschooled my children. So I'm passionate about education and education reform because there's been a drastic change since about 2010. And I became significantly aware of it in 2019, driving home from a baseball game with my son, and an email came through from Loudoun County Public Schools saying that there was literacy libraries going into each classroom, and that piqued my interest because in all of the years that I've taught, we've never gotten a library in our classroom. We've always funded them ourselves, so I was shocked about that. So I pulled up my son's class list and started vetting the books, and within an hour there were 5 books that I had significant concerns about, CRT and sexually explicit material, and so I reached out to my son's principal and his teacher. His teacher was very gracious, actually had no idea what was going on. His principal went up the chain of command because this all got kind of thrown on them at the beginning of the school year. And her response to me was that because I told her my son was not allowed to read any of these books. And and until I had a chance to vet all of them, he couldn't touch them. So she responded to me and said that the books were going to be in the classroom library, they were not going to be marked, and they were going to be interdispersed between all the other books. So immediately she was telling me that I didn't have parental rights, that I checked them in when I dropped my son off at the door, and that they were intentionally trying to put these books in our children's hands. And that was a kick in the stomach. The school system that I taught for, that I loved, that 3 older children had graduated from was violating our parental rights, and that they wanted to put these books in our children's hands. Now, do I think the principal wanted to do that? No. But were they being forced? Yes, because our schools are captured. They are captured by a Marxist ideology. They can try and deny it all they want. This is Agenda 2030 coming in. It's a very progressive agenda. And so that's how I got involved. And then a week later, I was involved in CRT training as a teacher. And everything changed in 2019. I was shocked. So I pulled my son out of school and homeschooled him during COVID, and then I put him back in as an 8th grader. His freshman year in high school, he's playing football, he's changing in the locker room, and the next thing he knows, there's a girl who's identifying as a boy in their locker room while his pants are down and his teammates are changing. And my son grabbed all of his stuff and dove out into the hallway and was completely mortified. And they're in a captured school system. He was a freshman. He didn't want to make waves. My husband contacted the athletic director. They were told that the boys needed to contact their coach and that there would be an alternative place for them to change, for the boys who all had issues. Well, they were all terrified to speak up. They were new to the school. They didn't want to make waves with their coaches. They had come out of the year before where they were told if they mispronounced and misnamed somebody, they were going to get in trouble. And so that's not a far-fetched, because we have 3 young men in Loudoun County who have Title IX violations because they spoke up and said they were uncomfortable with a girl in their locker room. So it's not far-fetched. These boys did everything they could during the season to not exploit this young lady and protect her. And at the end of the season, they held a school walkout that was very well attended and picked up nationally, but they were met with such resistance the entire time. So it is imperative that we vote for Winsome Sears and John Reed. We need Jason Mears. This is the only hope, and this is the only change that we have seen in our school system, because they are not listening to parents. So the only thing they're listening to is codified law and lawsuits. So it is imperative that we vote down ballot all the way Republican, so we can make changes in the educational system in Virginia. Chris, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Funderburg. I'm the vice chair of Moms for Liberty in Prince William County. Thank you.
Yes, we take dads too, by the way.
Yeah, they not only let me join, but they, after Mary Ann was stepping down, asked me to help lead, so I was happy to step in there. I'm a father of 5 kids, 2 that have matriculated from Prince William County schools, thankfully, but I still have 3 more. And I started getting involved when I started checking out the books in our little Noakesville town school library, and found that they had at least 3 books for kindergartners about transgenderism. Kindergartners. So it starts young. That was my first foray into the school board meeting, where I met Mary Ann and Jen and some of the others. From there, I started getting into the DEI and CRT, and I would spend time at school board meetings explaining to them this is what you're trying to teach, and this is what's going to happen from it. And I take great pleasure every time it does, and I can come back and say, I told you so. From there, I've been helping push back on the transgender policy 738-5 in Prince William County, because it's especially egregious that it requires teachers to lie to parents if the child does not want the parent to know that they're transitioning. So they could have different pronouns, a different name, and even change clothes at school, and the parents may never know. So I'm a little bit more brief in my speaking, but.
No, that's perfectly fine. Everybody appreciates brevity. I would like to ask you, you said you have a daughter?
Oh, yes, I have 2 daughters. Actually, I have 3, but one is off to college. She doesn't have this problem anymore at Liberty University. But, yeah, see? I told my kids I'll pay for school if you go to Liberty, and that's it.
Not a bad idea.
No.
And so they're still in K-12, and
yeah,
are they feeling the effects of this policy, or?
Absolutely, for years. They're in 8th and 12th now, or 8th and 10th, but for the past couple years, there is a transgender student at the school, and my daughters don't want to use the bathroom at the school. They either wait until after school's over, or since I live next door, they'll come home and use the bathroom and then go back to school.
It's insanity, guys. It's insanity. It's not okay. And how about you? So your son, is he still in school?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and how is he doing? Like, I have boys, and so everybody forgets about the boys. I think we talk about the danger for girls having these men in their spaces, but a boy going through puberty, 12, 14 years old, my sons would have been horrified having a naked girl in their locker room. So how is your son doing?
Well, they were horrified. They were definitely horrified. We were talking about this is horrible as a parent. As a parent, you're raising your children, and I don't want to rush through anything. I want to enjoy each season. But we were talking about how there's this piece of, I can't wait for him to get out of Loudoun County Public Schools, and that's horrible. I don't want to rush the time in the season, but he has learned to be bold and courageous. He stands on Joshua 1:9, and so he has learned how to defend himself and speak up in the classroom. God uses everything for good, but what I have found with he and his friends is this generation has been lied to over and over again by the people that they were expected to trust. And so because they've been lied to, I had to go back and apologize to my children, my older children, and say, I raised you to respect authority, but that's not the case now. They need to earn your respect, and they need to be truthful with you. And so I told my son he has to be respectful, but that he is to stand up for truth. And if there's an issue, then he has our backing. But so they have had to learn to be bold.
Well, and it's so confusing for children. I respect adults, but not that adult quite yet. And it's hard to navigate all of this. And isn't that the intent, Martha, like to destabilize? And so.
Absolutely. And, I don't have a current story to tell from my kids' perspective, but if I can just talk, I'm just going to answer a question you didn't ask, and talk about something that you might want to share with your friends and neighbors out there who may not know that there are 2 laws in existence in Virginia now, that the Youngkin administration was absolutely fantastic at neutering the last 4 years, but the laws are still in place, and without Winsome at the helm, these laws will go full-bore overdrive with you-know-who. I don't want to say her name. One of them is called One Virginia. It codifies DEI into all state agencies as the operating principle. Youngkin changed equity in DEI. He changed it to opportunity. It changed the language. Again, they neutered it. He got a lot of grief from the Democrats for that, but he did it. And then the other is a teacher licensing law that requires teachers to become culturally responsive educators and re-up their license every 2 years by proving that they are proficient in this. And Virginia Education Association has also kindly captured all of the guidebook, the the tutoring videos and everything put out by the Northam administration. It's all on their website still. It's ready to go if somehow we don't succeed in November. And those laws were put in place at the end of 2021, so they really didn't have time to take effect. They will take effect. Life as we know it in Virginia will get worse with DEI at the helm if we are not successful. And most parents are completely unaware of this.
So Martha, not everyone here knows, like, you hear the words culturally responsive teaching, and it sounds great. I mean, right, you want to, as a teacher, you want to serve your children and or your students, and you want to care for them and approach them in a way that understands their culture. Explain briefly, if you can,
okay, so
what the problems are there.
So
Why is that a problem?
this is not completely accurate, but in a nutshell, it is DEI for K through 12. It is forcing teachers to adopt methods using SEL, social emotional learning, that enforce critical race theory and queer theory into their lesson plans, and make it so that, and here's a perfect example from the VDOE website, again, available on the VEA website in the Ed Equity Guide, an example of what is a good culturally responsive educator in Virginia will be a teacher who mediates power imbalances in the classroom based on sex, gender, class, race, and I think there's one more. So imagine a teacher being told that they have to mediate power imbalances in the classroom. What does that even mean? But that's what they're going to be judged on and required to prove they can do to retain their license every 2 years.
It's designed to generate racial tension in the short term.
Absolutely, and let's all be reminded, only a third of kids in the state of Virginia can read proficiently. Right. And so teachers are asked to spend time on this and not on making sure kids can read and do math.
Now, can I just add one quick thing?
Sure.
So the Youngkin administration neutered that. I was able to pass a culturally proficient educator test online this past week with flying colors, and none of it made any sense, which was beautiful because it made no sense. So teachers don't even know what's coming down the pike, because what they've been told is proving themselves to be culturally proficient is gobbledygook for the last 4 years.
I do now understand why they call you like the woman James Lindsay.
Oh.
All right, let's talk a little bit about some of your. You had some of the things you've uncovered in your school district and around the state. So I don't know, top 2 worst cases.
Oh, okay. Well, in March at West Springfield High School, there's a women's history class, and by the way,
in Fairfax. That's in
yes.
Fairfax.
Yep. The teacher of this class is the sponsor for the Young Democratic Socialists of America Club. The women's history class is an elective. So anyways, in March is Women's History Month, so she wanted the students to do a display in the hallway. And it was basically the leftist rendition of the alphabet, starting with A is for abortion, coat hanger, image of a coat hanger. This was hanging in the hallway. And it went on from there. There was T is for trans women, Q is for queer, something Kamala Harris was in there. It might have been like for leadership or something. So it was a very partisan display. And I raised it with the principal initially, and I tried to give him a fair shake and say, hey, I was just made aware of this. This is nuts. And also, like, if we throw some partisan things in there, I actually said, what about Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, like holding very proud former Marine with her rifle, like, you know, like P is for patriotism. Like, I thought that would be a legitimate response. We could hang it in the hallway, right? And of course, the principal didn't respond to that in particular, but did basically tried to ignore me. It went all the way up to the superintendent, who decided that it was a very thoughtful display. One of the kids in the school, so this was sanctioned by leadership. One of the kids in the school, a young conservative Catholic man, was really, he was very offended, particularly by the A's for abortion coat hanger, and he ripped it down. And they brought him into the office and counseled him, because that's what they do, they gaslight you, because they wanted to make him feel like he was the problem.
It's a struggle session.
Yes. So then his mom naturally reached out to me, and I was like, this is insane. Like, even adults are bothered by this. A young man to have a visceral reaction to this is a normal thing, and it's in fact so divisive, you're violating your own controversial issues policy. So like the fact that you're just kind of telling him that he's the problem is completely ridiculous and in violation of your own policy. So anyways, that's just one of the things. That was in March. More recently, I was given an email from a senior administrator of Fairfax County Public Schools. The administrator didn't give me the email, somebody else did. But anyways, he sent an email to all of the school registrars on July 1st. His name is Dave Anderson. You can look it up. This is real. I published on this. So he sent this email, which I have a copy of on iwfeatures.com, and he said, I want you to destroy all student identification documents. Like everything, their proof of identification, their parents' proof of identification, everything. So anyways, I asked a lot of questions to the leadership, to the Superintendent Reed. Why in the world would you want to destroy student identification documents? Well, on one of the flyers that they have with a QR code to help illegal immigrants evade ICE, they actually have a little line at the bottom of that flyer that says, we will not retain any student identification documents. So obviously the point is they're purging records in order to evade ICE for all students, which makes students more vulnerable. Anyways, that was recently, so there's just so many. I could go on and on and on.
So, round a question, and anybody can take this. Where is there hope between these three counties? I mean, you have kids still in the schools. You have kids that still in the schools. Your kids are still in the schools. So there's got to be some positive things. You have to feel like you're making headway. Why would you keep? No judgment, right? I've had my kids in all kinds of schools. Are there no other options? You like the sports. You see hope. You're able to stay on top of it. I don't have the answers, but is there hope? Is there hope for changing the policies? Where would you find that?
Well, I did make some. I think one of the big things is raising parental awareness. There are a lot more people who are standing up, and also I see a lot of hope in this young generation. There are just so many kids, and the Turning Point USA, opening those in schools, like opening just a place for conservative kids or just kids that aren't Democratic Socialists of America to gather and share some ideas. So I see a lot of promise in the young generation. I also was able to get Superintendent Reed to make social emotional learning optional. Very few of the parents know about that, but you can actually go online and opt your kids out of it. I think it personally should be opt-in instead of opt-out, but that's one gain that we've made. And I would also like to add, some people do ask me...
Can you pause for a second? How did you make that happen? Because you have two other school districts. I don't know if you guys have an opt-in, opt-out policy for social emotional learning or any of the stuff, sex education.
Not that. We've made some other headway, and we can get to that in a second.
So how did you make that happen?
When Michelle Reed first started, I had a one-on-one meeting with her. And we discussed some of the things that we agreed on, and I met with her in good faith. And one of the things that we agreed on is all 8th graders should be proficient in Algebra 1. It should be Algebra 1 should be math for 8th graders. We also agreed that debate teams are really good for kids, and they should be in all high schools. So I was trying to meet with her one-on-one to find some common ground. And then she asked me what were some of my biggest concerns, and the social emotional learning, I think, is a Trojan horse for everything, which is completely terrible in the schools if you actually look at the curriculum. And it was shortly after that it was, she had mentioned that she was going to look into making that an opt-out thing.
I love that. At Moms for Liberty, one of our 3 values is building relationships, because I believe you're not going to make any headway, no matter if you're in a liberal county or a conservative county, you're not going to make headway till you build that relationship. So great job on that.
Thank you. And can I just add one thing? I really think you can work with anybody. Nobody's going to agree on all things, but you can work with anybody. There are going to be some things that you can be in a room with anybody and find some common ground on something. But I also wanted to address a question that you raised, and I've been asked this a long time. People say you're such a critic of Fairfax County Public Schools. Why are your kids still there? And quite frankly, if they gave me the $21,000 that they're taking to educate my kids or keep them captive in their schools, and they said, here, you can choose a school, it's definitely not the school that I would choose. But that said, private school is, on average in Fairfax County, about $25,000 per year per kid. I have 3 sons in school, so that would be $75,000 per year. I'm not a trust fund person. My husband and I are like first ones in our family to go to college. So anyways, $75,000 a year when you're trying to raise a family is quite a bit. So anyways.
So thank you for what you're doing to fight back. Again, my kids in public school, no judgment, but it's a question people ask all the time. Like, they're hearing these stories and they're like, get your kid out. Well, for $75,000 annually.
Advocate for school choice.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Anyone else? Hope?
So absolutely hope. With the current Virginia administration, we've been able to push back, and Jason Mira's his office wrote an amicus brief, part of a lawsuit with America First Legal, Platt versus Manfield. Our rights were violated when we were speaking up about a student with gang affiliation with MS-13 who showed up at a school after being suspended for a year, and parents didn't know. The cavalry's coming, the DOJ. That's extremely helpful. So now we feel like this administration previously, their hands were very much tied, but now they get to work in conjunction for the next few years and hopefully beyond. So that's helpful. We thought that the people who were running our schools truly had our children's best interests at heart, and unfortunately, it's captured, and that's not the case, and they are beholden to the higher-up stakeholders that are running the show and putting out. But I will say that the younger generation, they kudos to the parents, because I'm telling you, these children, they're resilient, and I would say the majority of my son's young friends have all run to the conservative side because they're tired of the garbage.
It's great. Yeah, there's definitely I think a revolution happening. It's great. Okay, we are about out of time for our panel, but I'll give everybody 1 minute to closing remarks, something you wanted to get across that maybe you haven't yet, and then we're going to call up our next panel. Chris, you want to start?
Sure, yeah. So I think there is a lot of hope. And one of the things I've learned over the past couple of years is that we have to fight at the national level, the federal level, the state level, and at our local school boards, because the local school boards' hands are tied in a lot of things because of the state. And then the state their hands are tied because of the federal laws. So with the Trump administration in and what Youngkin has been able to do, and hopefully these guys getting in, and if we can flip the state house, I think a lot more can be undone and we can get back on track. And so I know that's something that we work very hard at Moms for Liberty.
Perfect.
Social emotional learning is a Trojan horse that needs to be eradicated from our school systems. It is dangerous. It is it's pervasive, and parents have no idea. So schools are school boards, the professional associations, they are taking advantage of the fact that parents are busy raising their children and they don't have time to know what's going on in the schools. So it's imperative that people get in there and flesh out all of this.
Thank you for that. And I'll take a moment to plug m4lacademy.org, because Missy, who's here somewhere, is doing hi Missy, is doing great work as our Director of Education for Earle Academy. And each month she takes a new subject, and social emotional learning was a whole month. And so you can go there if you don't know what it is or why are they talking so bad about it. It has such a nice name. There's a general guide, a few pages long. You can go deeper. You can watch hour-long videos. You can dig and dig and dig. And she has a thing at the bottom now. It's like, dig in the rabbit hole. You click that, and there's like 8,000 things. And so, m4lacademy.org.
I do have hope. I often don't sound that way, but I do. And I do think there's some fatigue on the part of the general public about a lot of this stuff. What is music to my ears, though, is when I hear politicians, people on the radio, people calling in saying this is Marxism. Because a few years ago, people thought that's crazy, but they know now that it's Marxism. And it's complicated. I get that. And I get that that's why a lot of politicians don't necessarily want to talk about it, because it's complicated. But it's out there that people are starting to understand that. One last bit of warning I want to give parents, though, is that, and tell your friends, be bold on social media, because, again, people are starting to get it. Hazel Health is an organization that is now doing the mental health appointments from schools. They are all over the country. They have, I think, 3,000 school districts now. Prince William County Schools just announced that now free mental health appointments from school. And Hazel Health is based in San Francisco. And every negative thing that you might think is accurate. If you go on their website, you go on their Twitter feed, you look into what they're advocating for, you do not want any child with a mental health issue getting help from Hazel Health.
Actually, you don't want any child with a mental health issue getting any help at school, because they can't even educate our children, let alone take care of mental health.
And in all fairness, most of the teachers I know don't want to take on all of this mental health that they're being forced to take on. And it's a recipe for disaster. Closing remarks.
So recently I was asked, what do you think the future looks like in 5 to 10 years from now? And I thought it was an interesting question, because the answer is that depends on us. And really, I remember something Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears said a couple years ago when I was listening to an interview she was on, and she said, they were playing chess and we were playing checkers, but no longer. So I really hold that near and dear to my heart, because basically everything that I do is the left is trying to gaslight us that these things are not happening in our schools. And we're finding over and over and over again with proof through curriculum, through FOIAs, that they actually are. So everything I do is, one, expose the rot. They tell you that there's not any rot there, there's not any kind of, politicking, they're not trying to brainwash your kids. First thing you do is find the rot. You can do that through Freedom of Information Act, even if you don't have kids in school. And even if you don't have kids in school, you're still paying more than 50% of your property taxes to these schools, right? This is the future of America. You have the right to review curriculum, the PPRA, anyways. You have the right to review that curriculum and opt your kids out of things. So anyways, you find the rot, you expose the rot, you might have some platforms, maybe you have friends in office, maybe you have a social media account, maybe you can publish. You let other people know what you found, you take a stand on it, and then you mobilize others to join you. Tell your neighbors, make sure, get out and vote, make sure we're finding conservatives for the election. They're not just kind of hanging out waiting for other people to elect Winsome Sears and John Reed.
Perfect. Give our panel a good thank you round of applause. And if our next panelist could join us. Thank you. Thank you all so much. So I know you guys have been waiting for, just join me up here. We're as formal as maybe you're used to. And we don't even have steps, so I think we're missing a state representative and Ian. Oh, there's Ian. Okay. Phil, this is you. I didn't talk to you beforehand, Phil. Sorry. You have a mic? Everybody's got their mics? Okay. Okay, we're going to start with you, Lieutenant Governor Sears. First, I want to thank you all for joining us. And I just want to point out, other than Ian, either elected or trying to be elected officials, putting themselves out there at a town hall that we're going to open up and anyone in here can ask a question. Anyone was welcome. We did not, the only thing you had to do to get in here was show an ID. There are so many politicians nowadays that do not make themselves available to the public. And so they deserve a round of applause just for showing up and being here. All right, would you like to introduce yourself? I don't think anybody here knows who you are.
Well, before I do that, I know that I saw some of the delegates who are running. Are you all still here? Yes, yes. That's wonderful. And in the back, absolutely. Good to see you all. So, as you all know, maybe you don't, my name is Winsome Earle-Sears, and I am running for governor of our great Commonwealth of Virginia. If there's three things I want you to remember when you leave here today, it is that as governor, I'm going to ensure that your taxes remain low. That's number one. You worked hard for that money. You deserve to keep as much of it as possible. We've already given you $9 billion back. I expect that we're going to keep giving you more back. Not my opponent, of course, she who will not be named, is not going to do that. She's already said that she is going to, as a matter of fact, tax you more. So that's good to know. The next thing is that I'm going to ensure that you are safe and secure in your homes. Your children must be able to walk the streets. Our schools must be safe. Our neighborhoods must be safe. Our businesses must not lose inventory and just watch it walk out the door. My opponent is soft on crime. She's so soft on crime that in D.C. she voted that penalties would be reduced for very heinous crimes. And it was so bad what she voted for that even Joe Biden, when he was president, believe it or not, vetoed that bill when he was lucid. And then, and she's going to get rid of qualified immunity. She's going to just decimate our law enforcement. It makes no sense. She's already said for sanctuary cities, and so she's going to turn us into a sanctuary state if she is elected, which she won't, because we all have common sense here. We can't have her. And then last thing I want you to remember is we've got to continue to create these wonderful jobs. My policies will work for Democrats, independents, everybody. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, ma'am. Young man.
Okay. I am so glad to be with you. I'm John Reed. You know, I'm former communications director in the Senate and former TV guy and radio guy. And I will tell you, you will not see my opponent in an event like this. She is the only person who will not debate out of the 6 candidates who are running. So some of the things we've been talking about tonight, gosh, I wish I could talk to Ghazala Hashmi about that. But she refuses to stand on stage. And I think the reason has been exposed in this meeting tonight, because everything you have discussed, everything that is a problem, everything that parents dislike about Virginia's public schools, Senator Ghazala Hashmi has been the leader of pushing those agenda items. We are going to make sure she doesn't get a promotion to Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. I've been traveling, put almost 100,000 miles on the car in the last several months. Anybody, I need to GoFundMe for new tires because we're burning through them. I have been going to schools. I have been talking to parents. I have been talking to teachers who were scared to talk to me, right? Because they're worried they're going to get fired if they're talking to the Republican who's running for lieutenant governor. But there are so many people out there, you are not alone, who feel like things are off track. And they recognize that the system that was in place that you and I grew up with in the Virginia public schools, because I went to Henrico County Public Schools. My dad was the principal of a big middle school in Chesterfield County, at the time one of the fastest growing counties in the state. The things that we experienced don't exist anymore. There's been a real corruption in the educational system where parents are being sidelined, secrets are being kept. There was a time where we all agreed, everybody whether you were the Baptist minister down the street or the stripper. We all agreed we would protect the innocence of children as long as we possibly could. We would not expose them to sexual material, because we know that once that starts, it sends the person into a different realm. Once those eyes are open and those juices start flowing and everything is centered around that, the person begins to change. So you don't want to rush that. Where have we lost that protection of kids? Well, you've got to have strong leaders like Winsome, and I would assert like me, who will stand up and fight to make sure that you as the parent are the person who decides when your child is exposed to that type of material. And that the really pornographic material, and I did review it because I wanted to make sure as a former reporter that I wasn't just taking somebody else's word for it, that these graphic novels and books are not in the schools. With the internet out there, there's plenty of room for your kids to get in trouble. They don't need help in the public school system. And we're going to stop that from happening going forward. Let me finish with this. You know my story. I'm kind of a different candidate here. I want to tell you I'm sensitive about these subjects because of what I have been through in my life. And I always want to be respectful and thoughtful about the feelings of other people. Sincerely, I do. And I'm probably the person who holds back about passing judgment most of the time. I've seen this trans issue up close for 30 years. I'm 54 years old now. I've seen it for 30 years, and I've seen the devastation of individual lives. And it's not my place to tell an adult what to do with their life. I mean, if you want my advice, I can give you some advice, but it's really not my place, certainly not as an elected official. But those of us who will lead at the state capitol have an obligation to protect kids. And I, as an individual, want to affirm, if you need to hear it, you are not a bigot for protecting your children. You are not a bigot for protecting your moms and their privacy. You are not a bigot for protecting your daughters so that they can compete in women's sports. And you are not a bigot for saying that boys belong in one restroom and one locker room and girls belong in another. That is a reasonable position for you to take. And if you have been thinking in your mind, I don't want to be called a bigot, let me assure you aren't, and we need you to be bold this election season and in the years going forward.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Delegate Philip Scott. I represent parts of Spotsylvania and Orange. I'm not as popular as these two folks to my right. But did you know that something good came of Winsome's opponent getting into politics? Did you know that something good came of that? When she won in 2018, that's when I decided to get involved. And I ran for school board in 2019. I didn't win, but I stayed plugged in my local committee, and then God led me to run for House of Delegates. And so now I'm a champion for parents because of Winsome's opponent. And I've been waiting for the day to support an amazing candidate that will take her out. And so we have that with Winsome Earle-Sears. I'm looking forward to getting you across the finish line to see that other person out of politics for good.
We can do it.
Beyond that, and most importantly, I'm a son of the living God, first and foremost. I'm a husband and a father to 5 beautiful daughters, one with a lot of medical complications. Puts me in a unique spot. I see what's going on in our schools, and I need to protect my children from that. In Spotsylvania County, there was a school bus aide who sexually molested disabled children, and just recently was convicted of, I think it was 13 felony counts. Yep. It's despicable.
Special place in.
An immigrant, not that all immigrants are that way, but there was nothing on the books for a background check to be conducted to make sure. This is not the first time this person had done that. You don't just all of a sudden wake up one day and commit 13 different felony sexual assaults against minor children. And so I carried legislation this past year to tighten up the hiring practices And Delegate Sam Rasool said, this is going nowhere. It's dead. It's dead in the water. Not willing to have a conversation. There were some issues with it. I worked with a few special interest groups, ones that you'd actually be surprised. They were actually helping me with the legislation, but he would not let it go anywhere. That's what I'm up against in the House of Delegates. For 4 years, either I have carried or co-sponsored legislation to remove the pornographic materials from our libraries and have been part of that conversation. This past year, it was only focused on images, just images. And I provided the Education Subcommittee with examples of these images. And yes, my staff and I, we went through, as John Reed did, to make sure that we're not just going off of what we hear on the news, but we're speaking from firsthand experience. And we provided these images to all members of that subcommittee. And there was a gentleman from my district that showed up and he spoke. And he said, I wish the cameras were on you when you open that folder, because I wish they had caught the looks on your face when you saw what was in the schools. And what do you think happened with that legislation? It died. Didn't go anywhere. Even though they were given the evidence face to face, they still refuse to protect our children. That's what I'm up against in Richmond. I will not stand down. I got to walk in, same time as John Reed, with the protest line out there, and we turned and waved, smiled, hi. That's what we're going to get. But at the end of the day, the thing that's most important to me is that I do right by my Lord and Savior. I do right by my wife. She's almost as important. And then I set an example, and I leave a legacy, and make Virginia a place where I want my daughters to grow up and raise their own families.
Thank you. Ian.
Hello, I'm Ian Pryor. I'm senior counselor at America First Legal. About 5 years... 5 years ago, I had no idea what was going on in schools, like literally none. I thought everything was fine. Started to wake up a little bit. I ended up writing an article in the Federalist, I think it was actually 5 years ago this week, talking about Loudoun County Public Schools, where I live, specific to the academies of Loudoun and how they were changing the admission standards, they were using equity, and they created this policy where if teachers criticized their equity policy, they could be disciplined, even if they did that outside of school hours. You know, I wrote an article about it, and actually the union in Loudoun County agreed, and that got taken off the docket the first time I ever went to go speak at a school board meeting. But a couple of months later, myself and some other people here who are from Loudoun found ourselves on the wrong end of this Facebook list, where they wanted to silence people that were going to school board meetings. They wanted to send mailers to their neighborhood, publicly expose them, and I thought, man, this is not good. This is bad kind of stuff. And so it really had the opposite effect, because what we did, we created an organization, Fight for Schools. We started a removal campaign for 6 of the school board members. We got to court with the first one in October, so 4 years ago this week, and we had a bunch of motions on. And our attorney worked for the Dillon Law Group, and the Dillon Law Group, I think many know Harmeet Dillon, who's currently the head of the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice. But she was not our attorney. We had her partner, David Warrington, who is currently White House counsel. So we won all our motions, and it was clearly going our way, and ultimately the school board member resigned shortly thereafter. But during that time, I think we all became aware of a lot more that was going on in Loudoun County Public Schools, specifically Policy 8040, which is their gender-expansive bathroom and locker room policy, which is everywhere, right? It's not just in Northern Virginia, it's everywhere, but it is certainly in Northern Virginia. And there was a sexual assault at a school. The superintendent lied about it at a school board meeting. And I think a lot of people in Loudoun County said, we don't want this school board anymore, and we don't want this superintendent anymore. And well, the good news is we don't have that superintendent anymore, and we don't have that school board anymore. They're all gone, and the superintendent, well, he got fired after the special grand jury report after the investigation from Attorney General Miyares. But unfortunately, the fight would have to continue because these schools continue to propagate these policies. But there's a lot of talk about hope. Is there hope? And certainly, I think last November, we realized that, well, things are about to change. And in February of this year, America First Legal sent a letter to the Department of Education asking for investigations of Alexandria, Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun, and Prince William for their violations of Title IX. And lo and behold, they opened an investigation, and they found that those schools' policies were in violation of Title IX. Now, Fairfax County and Arlington County, they challenged that in the Eastern District of Virginia federal court. They said, well, we don't want to lose our funding, so we're going to move for an injunction, and they sued the Department of Education. Well, they lost at the Eastern District of Virginia, and then just yesterday, they lost at the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. So the tide is turning, and I would add, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, but at the United States Supreme Court, we've seen these issues start to percolate. Mahmoud versus MCPS this summer, great decision from the Supreme Court on parental rights.
Is Rosalind still here, or did she came over from Maryland? She's a plaintiff in that case, our chapter chair in Montgomery County.
Right, and fantastic case, monumental case. And then Skermeti. Now, Skermeti had to do with hormones and puberty blockers, et cetera. Tennessee banned that for people under 18, and it reached the Supreme Court. What was interesting about that case, not just that Tennessee won, but you had 3 Supreme Court justices issue concurrences saying that, look, being transgender is not a protected class under the Equal Protection Clause. And then you've also had Justice Gorsuch signal that in a recent decision of the Supreme Court. So this summer, by June 30th at the latest, the Supreme Court is going to decide West Virginia versus BPJ. That case has 2 questions. Does the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution protect transgender status, and does Title IX protect transgender status? You already have 4 justices that are on record of saying no. And so what do Roberts say? What do Kavanaugh say? I predict that they're going to say it does not, and that all these policies are going to come crashing down. So needless to say, I mean, the wheels of justice turn slowly, and this has been going on now for about 10, 11 years through the legal system, but I think that we're going to start to see some real progress over the next year.
Thank you so much. And so the first panel, we laid out all the problems, and if you notice on this panel, we have state level, we have like the executive branch, we have the legislative branch, and I mean, you're not a judge, Ian, but you're kind of in the judicial area. Not yet, right? Not yet. You're not a judge yet. But it's through the, when you're suing people, what's the word I'm looking for here? The
judicial.
Yeah. You're like
legal world.
Legal. Yeah. I mean, there's many ways to eat this elephant, is what I'm trying to say. There's many ways to tackle this, and so I'm going to go down the line. We're going to ask you just one more question, and then we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. And if you guys could be brief, because all of you like to talk a lot. And
I was brief.
Yes, you were the most brief.
I was not. Sorry.
My question is, you listened to the first panelists, and you probably had thoughts as you were listening about your job, your position, or the positions that you're hoping to fulfill. What will you do either with your current job or the positions you're hoping to fulfill to start to tackle some of what those parents and community members are going through and their children are going through?
You want me to start?
Can you be brief?
Can I be brief? I'll try. Well, I'll just say that America First Legal actually has 2 cases right now, both in federal court, one involving Loudoun County Public Schools, one involving Fairfax County Public Schools. The Loudoun County Public Schools case has to do with these 3 boys that were in a locker room, and a girl, a biological girl that looks like a girl, acts like a girl, dresses like a girl, comes into the locker room, films them, and they're saying, well, why is there a girl in there? They investigate 3 of these boys under Title IX. They disciplined 2 of those boys under Title IX. The 2 boys they disciplined were Christian. The 1 boy that they didn't was Muslim. Same exact set of circumstances. So we brought a case in the Eastern District of Virginia. We were granted a temporary restraining order about 2 weeks ago, and we'll be back arguing shortly on a permanent injunction as the case goes through the system. In Fairfax, we sued on behalf of a female student who went to go use a female restroom. A boy went into the bathroom, not a transgender boy, just a boy, and when she complained, they said, well, you're the one that's going to have to use the private restroom because of our policy. We brought that case in state court at a very different time. It was a year and a half ago, so we didn't want to be in federal court with the Title IX, but we recently voluntarily dismissed that in state court and just refiled it in federal court. So that's what America First Legal is doing on behalf of these students.
So lawfare, you'll continue to
However we want to frame it.
Yeah, it's great. No, I mean, it's time to go on the offense instead of waiting for all this to happen. Would you like to go next?
So I am actually a former vice president of the State Board of Education. And when I was there, we were concerned about the kids learning. Imagine that, very novel idea. We just want them to be able to have reading comprehension. We want them to be able to do math, science, and all of the other things that's necessary. That's it. That's all we want. We don't want political ideology. And so when we were on the school board, the State Board of Education, the test scores of the children were going up and up and up. Well, we rolled off, and we had 2 since Democratic governors, and they changed the whole complexion of the school board, the State Board of Education, so that now we were talking about political ideology, and they said our children were learning when they weren't, and that they were passing the SOLs when they weren't, and we had places in various parts of Virginia where the children were all declared gifted, and half of them could not even pass the SOLs. They lowered the test scores and all of that. And so then we had COVID, and COVID did not close our schools. It was the governor's response to COVID that closed our schools. Remember that. Because so many other states did not shut down our schools. They did not shut down their schools. And so what we realized when we came into office, thank you very much for hiring us. Thank you very much for hiring Glenn Youngkin, myself, and Jason Miyares, and you brought in the House as well. And what we learned was really terrible, because Governor Youngkin immediately said every single school must now be open, every single one. And guess what happened? Yes, those who were democratically led, they sued. They sued. And by the way, my opponent, what did she say? Because, you know, she had something to say. She said the schools must remain closed for another semester and not reopen until September of 2022. And now I hear she's going around and saying, we are last in all of the schools with our children's learning. But of course, you were there. You said we shouldn't even open when we did. And of course we were last because we were the last to open, and our children were, of course, very low in testing. And so when I visited schools, I had principals say to me, normally the kids come to me 2 years behind. Now, because of the response to COVID, they're 3 and 4 years behind. What am I supposed to do? First of all, they should never have been socially promoted, you know, before COVID, and now it got even worse. So what we have done, and what we're going to continue doing, is we are putting the scores of our children pegged to the NAEP scores, the National Assessment for Educational Proficiency. You can't lie anymore. If you can't pass the NAEP, then you can't pass at all. That's what we're doing, because there was an honesty gap. We were saying your kids were actually learning, but when they took the NAEP scores, which is, you can't fool it, they weren't passing. So that's number one. Number two, you are the child's parent every time, all the time. You are the child's first teacher. We're not, as the government, going to get in the way of that. And when we were gaslighted that there was no CRT being taught, well, as the kids say, we brought the receipts, because we know, especially in one school system, Loudoun County, they were paying over $300,000 for CRT training. So we're not going to have that. And, my friend, that you're talking about, the opt-in, that's where we're going to be. You as the parent must be able to decide what your children should do. And I'm going to finish with this. You know, my opponent voted against you knowing what was going on in the schools because the Parents' Rights Act. When she was in Congress, she voted against you knowing if the curriculum was being changed. She voted against you knowing that by the 3rd grade, whether your child was on grade level or not in all of the subjects. She voted against you knowing if your child was being transitioned. She voted against you knowing if violence was happening in the schools. Who is this woman to be telling us what we should do with our children? So we're not going to have that with me as your governor. And all of these policies that I'm telling you about will work for everybody's children. And finally, my opponent, as you probably know, voted that your girl children would have to be forced to share a locker room with boys and vice versa and be in girl sports, etc. And I just saw that schoolgirls in Albemarle County have started a petition on change.org that they themselves do not want to share a locker room with the boys. They don't want to be in the bathroom with boys because what they say is happening now is the boys are just coming into the bathrooms. They're just walking into the bathrooms and talking with them and opening the doors of the bathroom. We must protect everybody's children.
Thank you.
Why don't we let the guy who can introduce legislation talk for a second, and then...
I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. I'm going to introduce legislation to get pornography out of the libraries. I'm tired of the argument that we can trust our librarians to go through the books. I believe our librarians have plenty to do than sit there and go through the books. We should make sure that the ones that have pornography are not in our schools. It's simple. And then the librarians can do their job and help students do research, understand literature, understand how things are organized in the library, right? That's what a librarian is there to do, teach and educate. We have systems in place, and we need to tighten those systems to make sure the pornography is not getting in the schools. I'm going to continue to submit that, and it's going to continue to die in the Senate, because the House is going to be Republican majority this November. I had a dream the other night that it was 52-48. Okay? Now, here's the charge. You get to decide if that's a 52 Republican majority or a 52 Democrat majority. Which way do you want it to go? Because there's something else that's on the table this year or next year, and that's the abortion constitutional amendment. And if you don't like what happened in Fairfax, where teenage girls were taken and gotten abortions without their parents being notified, that constitutional amendment will enshrine that in the Constitution and get rid of parental notification. I don't care where you stand on the abortion issue. I think everybody in the Commonwealth can agree that parents should know what their daughters are doing. As I said, I'm a father of 5 daughters. And if any one of them were at a spot where they were feeling they needed to make that decision, I would want to know so I could counsel them. And the other thing, without parental notification, it allows rapists and sex traffickers to take minors to get abortions over and over and over again. We need to be out there with that message. So is it going to be a 52 Republican majority or a 52 Democrat majority? It's in your court. Get your friends out to vote. Get out there, call, send text messages, make donations, and get out there after you've done your early voting. Take a friend every day to the polls, even if you think they're on the other side of the fence. Talk to them, coach them, and if you think they're not going to vote the right way, turn around, go home, and then try again the next day, okay?
I was wondering where you were going with that. I was like, really? I mean, we want them to, you want them to be engaged civically, but you want to drive them there?
Just they're stuck in the car.
Got it.
They listen to you, and then if they, still not quite there, then try the next day, and the next day.
All right, John.
Yeah, what you've touched on is very important. I will never forget listening to Barack Obama the candidate talk about community organizing. I was like, what is this guy talking about? This is crazy. What is this community organizing? I was wrong. I was wrong. I was playing the old game, not the new game that was set up by the opposition. Barack Obama has set out a plan, and people before him with rules for radicals set out a plan too, about how you move an issue. And I will tell you, if I'm lieutenant governor, you are not going to have a passive person sitting there having cocktails in the afternoon and banging the gavel. You're going to have someone who is actively engaged in the legislation and communicating to the public of Virginia why we're taking the position we are. And I'm going to tell you a story about Winsome Sears real quick. You've heard me tell you this before. In Richmond, Virginia, my hometown, there was a horrible shooting at a high school graduation at the local theater downtown. It was bad, and we didn't know all the details. I'm on the radio talking about this story, and I find out that Winsome Sears gets in her own car without security, without permission, without fear, and goes and pushes her way through the crowd to the mayor of Richmond, who is reckless, at the time, was a very reckless guy, and calls him and the prosecutor and the school system out for their bad behavior. And I remember watching it, Winsome, thinking, this woman's on fire. Thank God we got somebody who'll actually stand up and do something. We don't need more people who are just going to sit in their leather chair at the state capitol. We need people who will put on their boots and go out and fight on behalf of what is right. Winsome will do that, and I promise you, if you send me to the Capitol as Lieutenant Governor, that's what I'm going to do too.
Thank
I'll
you.
make sure he does.
Thank you. Good. All right, we're going to open up the floor for questions for anyone on our panel. I'll help moderate a little bit. Don't be afraid. We've got Lisa over here. Come up to the microphone. Just line up over here. You could form a line. But the first question you have to answer before you can ask a question is if you're registered to vote.
If you already voted.
We're not going to ask you who you voted for, but if you voted?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because then they can get 10 friends at the vote.
Okay, all right.
You have 30 seconds to ask your question.
Lisa's giving them the rules, whatever that was. I don't know what's going on over there.
So I'm a student at Patriot High School. I'm the chapter president of the Club America. It's the high school offshoot of Turning Point USA. And I wanted to know, what can I do for my school and for my state?
What was the question?
What could I do for my school and for my state?
So the fact that you are here tells us something because, folks, I don't know what I was doing at his age, but this wasn't it.
In a tie.
Exactly. And so you must be fearless. It does take courage to do this because, unfortunately, this is the climate that we're in. So form the club. You're going to have to take some insults. It's what you have to do. This is the life you're living now. And don't be afraid. And make sure you petition your delegates, your senators. Now, most of them up here, if you're in Northern Virginia, they're all Democrats. Every single one is a Democrat. And then I want you to consider running for office as well. You must always do that. Always consider that. And then help those who are running. And I know Mr. Pryor can give you some information.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're doing the right thing by standing up and, being a part, I think, of, a revitalization of the spirit of participation, civic participation. And I've heard a lot about how the young people today are actually getting it. And I think we need more people like you to kind of spread the message so that more people get it. And, the future is, not to be cliched, but the future is different and brighter than what we're looking at right now.
Great. Next question.
Thank you.
You can chime in.
I have a couple more things to say to these young men. First and foremost, pray. It's going to be hard. Take some time to fast. And yes, there's not a whole lot of conservative elected officials up north. reach out to me. I'll come. I'll be there. I'll help you out.
Hey guys, I met some of you before. My name's Shamgar Connors. I've talked to you, and I got kicked off the kidney transplant list because I didn't get the COVID vax at UVA. So if we can do something about that, that'd be great. Anyway, I should be dead right now, but I decided, I used to be a teacher, I'm gonna keep going to school board meetings. You might have seen, I've been dressing up and doing like Alex Stein. I've been dressing up as a transgender Olympic swimmer. And in Stafford, where I live, I dressed up as a furry cat and I crawled up to the podium. They got really mad and they said I had to act like a human or I had to leave. But it's funny because there's furries in Stafford schools right now, and they don't tell these kids to stop crawling around, right? So, and then at the last time I dressed up as a Therian unicorn, and I brought some candy hay, and I started eating it, and I said we needed to install horse troughs instead of water fountains, right? I'm just highlighting how ridiculous it is that they let this stuff in the schools, and they're letting boys use girls' bathrooms. It's policy 2420-P. I brought it if anyone wants to see it. So the question is, do you guys think you guys can come to the October 14th school board meeting in Stafford, because they wrote me a legal letter threatening me that if I come back and dress up or bring up attention to it again, that they're gonna kick me out. And they changed all the rules so that way they could say I'm disrupting things if I meow or lick my cat paws when I'm trying to groom myself. So if you guys want to see any of this, I put it on YouTube. Type in the name Shamgar Connors. No one else on the planet has my name. It's really, Bill Scott's seen it.
All right, all right.
So, but I want to know if you guys can come out.
You asked the question, is there anyone that can show up at the October 14th Stafford School Board
Send
meeting?
me an email. I don't have my calendar in front of me right now, and I'll see what I can do.
You know, what he's saying seems absurd, and yet I pick up the paper and I read about absurdity in the schools on a regular basis. And this is the kind of thing that we need, this is the kind of story that we need to highlight going forward, so that the average person who isn't paying close attention will recognize that there's an abuse. It's not just absurdity, it's not just something that we laugh about. This is an abuse of young people going through the school system, and we're going to stop it.
And it's happening everywhere. My very first school board meeting in 2015 in Florida, I was sitting in the back just kind of observing, and a young mom walked up fighting for her daughter to dress how she wanted, and her daughter turned around and had a big old tail that swung, and I just remember being like, what? But it's very common now. Next question.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Litton-Tidd. With me, I brought my son, Quentin Tidd. He's kind of famous in Virginia because he was the lead plaintiff in a lawsuit against Fairfax County Schools. He was restrained and secluded 745 times in 7 years. Got a PTSD diagnosis, so we joined with 6 or 5 other parents, and we sued Fairfax County Public Schools, and we prevailed in getting dangerous restraints and seclusion banned. My question is this, and this is really emotional for me, so I'm going to have a hard time getting through it. A little 11-year-old boy in Virginia Beach in November 2024 was restrained. He was autistic, like Quentin, and intellectually disabled. And the hospital ruled that his death was restraint asphyxia. In Virginia, thousands of restraints and seclusions happen of high support needs disabled children a year. In Northern Virginia, Loudoun County just banned seclusion. In Fairfax County, we've banned dangerous restraints and seclusion. In Arlington and Alexandria, they have banned seclusion. My question is, what can any of you do to end this barbaric practice against people like him? He can't defend himself. He spent hundreds of hours locked up in a seclusion cell, sitting in his own feces and urine, forced to clean up his own mess from fight or flight trauma. I'm a different political affiliation from you, but I've got to tell you, I talked to Governor Northam. He didn't do anything. I've talked to Governor Youngkin. He hasn't done anything. I want to ask you, Governor Winsome, or Lieutenant Governor Winsome, as a woman and somebody who wants to defend children and keep them safe, what do you intend, or what will you do for Josh Sykes, an 11-year-old boy who was killed in school in Virginia Beach in November 2024 to end this practice.
Yes, so I'm sure that there is a case already going against the school system there. But I hear you as a mom, but I don't even have to be a mom. And this isn't a political issue. This is a human rights issue. And so 20 years ago, when I was first elected as a delegate, I could have brought a bill. I can't do that anymore. And so I'm looking to, yes, Delegate Scott, for example, to bring the bill. If that bill gets through the legislature and it comes to my desk, I'm going to make sure the practice of seclusion ends, because the schools should not be a prison.
Thank you. We don't agree politically on most issues, but it means so much to me to hear you say that. It really means a lot to me.
I'm going to sit here, and I've got a young man here on this front row. We serve on the Disability Commission together. And I know his heart's breaking right now. I can see it right now. And we're going to bring this to the Disability Commission to make sure that something is done. That's my pledge to you. Because there's a lot of folks, we can put our heads together, we can see exactly what needs to be done, and we will get something through. And I pledge that even if I have to do it on my own, something's going to drop in January.
And ma'am. And I want to thank you for being brave and speaking up, but I also just want to add, if you sponsor the bill and it gets stuck somewhere, it doesn't get to you, because it sounds like it might stop in the Senate and you won't be able to get it across.
Oh no, I'm going to have her come. She's going to testify, and they're going to have to tell her to her face that they're
I'm just saying, if you need a mom army to show up with you, ma'am, if you need a mom army because the legislators can't get it through, not that you won't try your best, but sometimes you need 500 moms to show up, we have the ability to gather them and get them there. So you let us know. We moms have to stick together.
Okay. Madam Lieutenant Governor, my name is Stacy Langton, and I am a mom of 6 children here in Fairfax County, and I'm the mom who exposed the pornographic books in our school libraries here in Virginia in 2021, which helped get you and Governor Youngkin elected. Now, we had the same problem in September of 2021 that we have right now in October of 2025, which is there was a girl who was assaulted at Stonebridge High School in the bathroom by a boy. And now, last month, we have girls who are being watched while they change at a high school in West Springfield. Yesterday, Governor Youngkin issued a directive to the health department, which is to create regulations regarding boys and men in women's private spaces. But I think the vast reaction I've seen to people is that they're saying this is 4 years too late and too little, and why would the school districts obey these regulations when they're already disregarding and thumbing their noses at the model policies? So if you are fortunate enough to be elected again, what are you going to do to finally end this problem of boys and men in our girls' private spaces on public facilities?
So unfortunately, my hands are sort of limited as governor, and so that's sort of why Governor Youngkin is where he's at now. It's the same reason why when he issued the executive order that all the schools would be open, because of the laws in Virginia, when we have elected school boards, then they have certain amounts of authority and they could make certain determinations. It's just the way that the law is written. Until we change the law, we can't change the law. And so I would, on my first day, of course, ensure that our girl children and our boy children both are safe in the locker rooms, are safe in the bathrooms, and that girls' sports are for girls, because we must have that assurance. It's common sense. So I'm going to do that. But one of the first steps, and this is in the health department, they are issuing those regulations so that the school systems, because it's coming from the Department of Health, must be obeyed in a more different way. So that's why it carries a little bit more weight, believe it or not. So we just have to, you can't change the laws until you get an opportunity to change both the House and the Senate, which, by the way, we're going to be stuck with the same democratically led Senate for the next 2 years. But with me, I will be able to veto any stupid bills that come ahead.
Thank you for explaining that. Thank you.
The power of the veto. Ian, could you chime in quickly there? Are there any lawsuits that can, you can come in from that angle?
My understanding is that situation has resulted in yet another letter to the Federal Department of Education. And I would anticipate they would investigate that. But, one of the problems, and it's not as big a problem as people think, is we've got this case in the Fourth Circuit called Grimm, right? And everybody that supports these policies says, well, Grimm, we need to do this because of Grimm. Well, they should probably read Grimm, because number one, Grimm specifically said this doesn't apply to locker rooms. It also says this also doesn't apply to gender expansive, non-binary, name the category, right? It applies to one set of circumstances of somebody that consistently, persistently, and insistently identified as the opposite sex. So people have been afraid to go to federal court on these issues because of Grimm. I say, do not worry about that, because every single one of these instances is its own act of discrimination. And I would bet that if you look at the individual that's going into the locker room, whether it's a girl into a boy's room or a boy into the girl's room, it does not fit the actual fact scenario of Grimm. So in short, keep suing these school districts.
Thank you. Okay, just so everybody knows, we have about 10 more minutes. And so if you could ask a quick question and then we could give quick answers, we could get to more people in the line. I don't think we're going to be able to add anyone else to the line, but we're going to try really hard to get through the end of the line. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Satterfield. I'm from Loudoun County, and I'm the chapter leader for the Independent Women's Network. And my son has since graduated through LCPS, but I was there. We saw it all. We saw the books come out of the classrooms. We saw the Chromebooks put in. We saw the push for them to bring the phones into schools, to bring your own technology day, etc. And we saw the parents get pushed out of the classroom and so forth. And so I am still active in Loudoun County. I still speak at school board meetings and try to bring change on policies within Loudoun County Public Schools. My question is for really any of you in office or that would get in office or continue in office is if you would be behind some type of a push. I don't know, where that fits in all your positions, but I think part of our reading problem and part of our parent non-involvement problem is that the textbooks have come out of the classrooms. When we had the textbooks coming home, it got left on the table, it was in the backpack, parents got to pick up those books, take a look at them, ask our kid, hey, so tell me about Macedonia, tell me what you learned about this. Hey, could you answer a few of these things? They were involved more. With them having all the homework, everything on the computer, that's not there, right? The children, it doesn't create that positive relationship between the parent and their child in learning. And plus, right, when a child doesn't have to open up the Chromebook, do the stuff, they're not reading as much. So I want to, what can you do to help promote that and get us back to that? Because I think this technology is
want to see books back in the classroom.
Yeah, so it's something that we can definitely take a look at and see if that's a state level issue or if that's a locality issue, if it's more of the school division, and we can look at what that would look like. So please reach out, let's continue that conversation, but in the interest of time, that's kind of the answer. Interested in having the conversation, absolutely.
Yeah, I just think it's important, it's forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, young man.
Thank you. I'm Rob Whitfield, and I've come from Britain, but I've been here 56 years. And I had a bad divorce in 1994. I started going to the General Assembly in 1996 when Mark Earle had a presumptive joint custody bill, which got defeated by the House. Here we are 30 years later, and in domestic relations, we still have many courts making decisions which discriminate not only against fathers, but against mothers as well. And one of the parents I know, Natalia, who lives in Reston, hasn't seen her son in over 5 years. And so the problem is that the Courts of Justice Committee are run by lawyers, and it's the best interests of lawyers, not children, that seem paramount in Virginia. What would you propose to do to reform the domestic relations laws in Virginia?
I don't, this isn't a topic I'm super versed in. I don't know if any of you.
I'll give a stab at it.
Okay.
There is a delegate right now, Mark Earle, and I know this is an issue that's near and dear to his heart, and so without him, yes, sir, it was. Yes, sir, it was. And near and dear to his heart, it's something that he's very much aware of. He's a father of adopted children, and I know that he's been taking a look at this issue, and I can definitely reach out to some of those folks and see what we can do to make sure that we're bringing more balanced approach in that process.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
Hello, everyone. My name is Omer, but I'm going to put my hand up so you guys can see the sign.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question before I get to that. I am running for a state delegate, District 26, Loudoun County Parents. Please allow me to be your delegate. I am a proud Republican nominee from Loudoun County, District 26. And as I'm running, before getting into the race, I have been involved in a lot of Loudoun County school board issues for the past 7 years. I have addressed some concerns. Okay. I've addressed those concerns, driven a lot of folks, and especially from minority group, seeing the daylight that this issue is real. A lot of people were not aware of the fact that this issue is real and it's affecting, and people are turning their heads. So I'm glad that Loudoun County is realizing what side of the aisle they need to be. And in order for us to get there, all of us need to do our part. Your vote counts, but driving the message also counts.
Do you have a question?
The question is, this is fantastic opportunity here. I would love to help and facilitate if we can have a similar opportunity in Loudoun County where this issue has been the home. So how can we get there?
Oh, are you asking if we can have a town hall in Loudoun County too? Oh,
Yes.
Okay. I think you could probably speak to Lisa right next to you and see what the potential of that is. She's our event coordinator.
Thank you.
You know, if I could just answer a question you didn't ask. It's interesting to me
I love it.
that as the Lieutenant Governor, second in command of our great Commonwealth, I am not allowed to speak before the Loudoun County School Board. I am not allowed, even though I represent even the people that are sitting on the school board. And so, you know, unless you are a resident of Loudoun County, and I believe also there's another school board, one of the 5 rogue ones, unless you're a resident there, it's very interesting to me that they do not want to hear from me.
That's terrible. Okay, next question.
Okay, hi, I'm a mom in Prince William County, and I have a daughter who is a senior in high school, and she's taking AP Government. So we were excited when she started the class, but now we are running into a teacher that does not hide what side of the aisle he comes from. And so my question to you is, these kids are sitting there and they don't agree with this teacher's way of teaching because he's teaching them what to think, not how to think. And so my question is, how do I counsel my daughter at home to actually, one, not turn into an apathetic learner, because that's what she's doing. She doesn't use her cell phone because you're not allowed to. Thank you very much for that policy. But she does email me through the entire class telling me how much this teacher is trashing President Trump and Governor Youngkin. And so what would be the first thing you would say to a 17-year-old child of how to push back on this teacher knowing that her grade does count for an AP class? That's a very parent practical question, by the way.
I think it's a great question. Who would like to take that one?
My daughters are not in high school yet, but this is what I would do with my daughters once they get there, if they found themselves in that situation, is I would get online with them and help them find resources.
Okay.
There is a way to respectfully debate.
Right, which we are
Re-
starting a
I
Turning
was-
Point chapter.
You're wearing the shirt of a guy
Yes.
who engaged in respectful debate.
Right.
He would frequently sit there and be like, you know what, I understand where you're coming from and I love you as a person. I disagree with you politically, or I disagree with you on this policy. And when it comes to a child being under the instruction of a teacher that's going down that road of being very political and one-sided in the approach, there is a way that the way Jesus engaged, he engaged with questions, okay? And
Good.
so as a parent, you have that obligation to train up your child, and you can do that even with them going to public school because they can go and they can be the voice. And so I would, though I am training up my daughters. My oldest is 12, the twins are 11, and the other two have a few more years before they get there, although the 4-year-old is probably going to be more feisty. To respectfully disagree.
Okay.
Okay, we have people in our life that do not agree with us politically, do not agree with us religiously, and they've had conversations with our girls about that, and we've had to engage them at their young age, like just say, okay, maybe that's a conversation that, again, this is with our family, we tell them that's a conversation that you can have with mommy and daddy. And so there's a way that you can encourage your daughter to engage respectfully, and if the teacher is not listening, your daughter can call a parent-teacher conference and say, I'm not feeling this. I want to sit down with you and my parents and bring awareness to this.
Okay.
And find other students that are having an issue, right? So things go unnoticed if they're not reported. And if your daughter's having an issue with it, there's got to be other students
Absolutely,
in
yeah.
other classes.
But they've turned to apathetic learners. They just want to get the A, so they're quiet.
Sure.
Okay, we only have 6 minutes left, and we have 5 more people, and
So-
so I don't, the math is failing
But
me.
encourage the respectful dialogue, questioning. Yep.
Yes, sir. If you can make your question quick so the others behind you get the chance to ask.
Actually, really quick, I'm a House of Delegate candidate, and my question is to ask if Winsome can support us, because we are here to support you, and we are trying to get the turnout for you, especially to win whatever percentage needed for Northern Virginia to carry the rest of the state. So I see about 6 or 7 House of Delegates here, and they haven't been recognized yet, and I want them to stand up and be recognized. And for the
They were
effort.
recognized, but you were out in the hall with your son. So.
Well, I
But
saw you.
thank you for being
Wow.
here.
As a matter
All right,
of
thank
fact, Lieutenant Governor Sears actually did have them all stand and be recognized, because I did not
Okay.
do it. So it was good. Thank you for
If you
that.
want to stand again, please, and announce yourself just very quickly. Very quickly.
Yes,
First
I'm
one.
This
Yes.
Eric also.
Yes.
Sandra Davis, and I'm for the Virginia House of Delegates, District 15, which is Burke and surrounding areas. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Butt. And tell us who you are, sir, and where you're running.
I am non-win. I'm running for House of Delegates District 9, which is Western Fairfax County, formerly held by Tim Hugo just 6 years ago, right, by Republican. So my district could be a swing district. District 9 is Chantilly, Centerville, most of Solly District, Fair Oaks, and Bull Run. Centerville High School, at the heart of the controversy of the abortion issue, is in my district.
Okay, thank you. And I think there's somebody else, the gentleman right there, is also running.
Well, I'm Eric Johnson, and I'm a candidate in House District 14. But you got to keep a little secret first. Don't tell anybody, but I have to go to work on Monday. I'm a teacher.
Thank you, sir.
So, I have a question.
Oh,
After the
hold on, there's still another candidate back there.
Quickly get thee to a microphone. Thank you.
Great. Okay, ma'am, you're up next.
Yes. My name is Cheryl Long, and I'm a former Fairfax County teacher, currently Prince William County teacher, and I'm a Prayer Action Chapter leader with Concerned Women for America. And my question is, as you're doing your preliminary talks as governor and the new lieutenant governor, has there been any talks and thoughts about STEM and history as well as reading and math? Because I feel like that is also the foundation for a lot of the downturn we've had in education.
If
Yes,
I
of
can,
course.
just before that, I just want to quote some stats for you nationwide. Only 22% of students in 12th grade right now can pass the civics test, and only 2 in 5, this just came out the other day, 2 in 5 seniors can state basic American history facts. So
I'm currently,
it's a real
the
crisis.
school where I'm at, it's 75%, EL learners. And they've gotten a great award, as far as their performance. But when I asked them about the Pilgrims, they had no clue.
Oh, my goodness.
So of course we need, when I say reading, writing, and arithmetic, of course, I don't mean just that. I mean, we want everything. I mean, I am the only candidate for governor who is also a blue-collar worker, because when I was in the Marine Corps, I was a diesel mechanic, as well as a journeyman electrician. So I'm probably the only one who could put on a pair of spikes and climb up those electric poles and provide power. So we need the trades. We need the trades. We need mentorships. We need apprenticeships. We need internships. Our children need some kind of ship to launch them. So of course we need STEM. Because, well, you see that the rogue nations of the world, China, Russia, and the rest of them, they're going to leave us behind if we don't get our act together. And so that's why, we have to harness the power of AI, as a matter of fact, so that we aren't left behind. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. All right, guys, we have 2 minutes, and ma'am, we cut off with the gentleman with the blazer because I'm so sorry, but you can maybe approach anyone after. Yes, ma'am. Okay, sir, it's your turn.
Well, as I said, I'm Eric Johnson, candidate for House District 14, which includes Lyconia, Annandale, and Wakefield. I'm retiring as a teacher, and I got recruited because somehow they got me to be motivated. Everybody on this panel, as I was coming down here, I almost started to cry because it's worse than you think. And the only way you're going to find out, I don't know what kind of laws we got on the books in Richmond, if the lieutenant governor cannot come and speak, there's something wrong, seriously wrong. I don't know what's going on, but I really would encourage you, what would it take for you to go and talk to the principals, talk to the teachers? That's where the boots are on the ground. And you will find out what is going on and how to solve the problems. All these issues that you have brought up, we deal with them every day with these children, every day. You're only going to find out, how can we get you to come to these schools?
Well, I am in the schools. It's just that I can't go to the school board themselves, the ones who are making the decisions for the children, and talk to them. But I have been visiting schools everywhere, both rural, urban, high income, low income. And as a matter of fact, I filed an amicus brief to help our Asian students when, of course, they couldn't get into the Ivy Leagues because they were told they had to jump through 5 million more hoops than anybody else. They just did not have the equal opportunity, and I did not think it was fair. And so for that, I was called white supremacist and everything else. But it's okay. I want everybody to have equal opportunity.
That makes complete sense. And we have American Teachers Alliance back there. Send all your teachers to leave the union. We have alternatives out there. She's back there to help any teacher leave the teachers union, which that's the first step to freeing the teachers to be able to speak. Okay, 2 more questions as quick as possible.
Sure. My name is Paula Steiner. I'm the past president of the Virginia Federation of Republican Women. We were very involved in the Parents Matter movement. I remember Ian and the Loudoun County Republican Women. Several of you in the audience as well. You had several successes in the mandate, parents' right legislation, The first comprehensive dyslexia bill, efforts as history to teach it as factual rather than interpretive. So thank you for those things, and I think you deserve a round of applause for that, Winsome.
Do you have a, I mean, we love praising her, but do you have a question?
Yes. And this may be directed more to Ian, but if others can answer as well. We have a problem with lawfare in Fairfax County, as you know. Using taxpayer dollars to defend noncompliance with President Trump's executive orders and federal legislation, and also defending staff on the abortion case. How can we be more vocal about how our taxpayer dollars are being misused?
Well, you know, it's not an easy answer, and I certainly understand because I'm having to deal with lawyers that defend these school districts. And while I say it's not an easy answer, it also is an easy answer because if we continue to win, then it will be highlighted, right? If the Department of Education wins at federal court and wins at the Fourth Circuit, when we get a temporary restraining order in the Eastern District of Virginia, we start highlighting why are you spending so much money on lawyers to lose? That's when it's going to start being highlighted, and that's when you're going to start seeing them think twice about taking on these ridiculous causes.
Ultimately, our children suffer.
Yes, they
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you so much. Last question, sir.
Yes. My name is Matt Malone. I'm running for Loudoun County School Board in the Algonquian District. I'll speak as quick as I can.
We got a school board candidate, folks. Where were you at the beginning?
So my question is, I have a 9-year-old daughter. She's in Algonquian Elementary School. Her name is Molly Malone. I'm concerned, so I decided to run. I've never run for any elected position ever. My question is about protecting my daughter, not just bathrooms, locker rooms, but from ideas. I opted out, like we discussed earlier, of the social emotional learning. It's like 15 minutes a day. They go into a special room. They play with toys. She felt left out because she was opted out. So I got emails. My daughter came to me and said, I feel like I'm left out. I want to go play. I don't want to go to the library. So these are the tactics they use. How can we fight these tactics of they want to be a part of the social emotional learning?
You know, it feels like your school board is fighting against you as a parent, and they're using your tax dollars to do it. And then when you sue them, they're using your tax dollars to defend themselves. And so is it any wonder then that I'm saying it is time for you as the parent to be able to decide where you want to send your children to school? Yeah. It is time for the money to stop following the brick building, and it is time to follow the child. You know, this shouldn't be that hard. We had redlining so many, many years ago that kept black children from learning. And it was by your zip code, and now what we have sort of the same thing where we're reducing parents, if they want to be able to choose the schools that their children can attend, we're reducing them to lying. Because what parents are saying now is, well, they're using Aunt so-and-so's electric bill to prove that they live with Aunt so-and-so, but they don't. They actually live back over here in a failing school system or a school system that's not responsive to them. And so they go to this new school, but they had to tell a lie about it. So, you know, President Trump in the BBB that recently passed, there is an option there that you would be able to access monies, and it's independent of the budget, independent of the state budget for education, so it wouldn't impact the state budget, where you would put money into a scholarship of some kind and get the tax deductions for that, but you could access it. But the only way you can access it is if you have a governor next year who says you can access that money. And then you can use it however you want, whether you use it for Private school, public school, parochial school, homeschool, anything. You as the parent gets to make that decision, and that's where I am. We just celebrated the 71st anniversary of Brown versus Board of Ed, and that was not about worshiping the brick building. It was about parents making the choice on where to send their children to school ultimately. It was what was inside the building that the parents wanted, and we're still fighting for that today.
Excellent question, excellent answer for our final question. I'll give everybody 1 minute, 1 minute each. We'll start with you, Ian. We'll go
Sure.
down the line and we'll wrap this up.
Well, I just want to, you're running for Loudoun County School Board, and we've heard how the Loudoun County School Board will not let our lieutenant governor come and speak at public comment. And the reason why is so childish and so dumb. Here's the reason why. In 2021, Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire was going to come speak at the school board. And they said, we're going to pass a policy. And I think that policy is actually, it didn't go through the proper process. So that's something to look into. So they passed a policy so that Matt Walsh couldn't speak at the Loudoun County School Board in 2021. Of course, what did Matt Walsh do? He rented Patty Mender's basement for $1, and he was able to speak at the school board. So maybe that's the solution. I don't know. But look, these school boards, these administrators, look, not every teacher, there are a lot of great teachers out there, tons of great teachers out there, and not all teachers that we disagree with are bad teachers. Not everybody brings their politics into the classrooms. The problem, the real problem, is in the administration, and the administration captures the school board members, and the administration runs the show. That's really where the problem starts, and then when we elect school board members, we need to do a better job of electing people that will actually stand up to the administration, regardless of what party they're running under.
100%. Thank you, Ian.
For the past 4 years, Lieutenant Governor and I have been lockstep fighting for school choice. ESAs, however you want to classify it, whatever you want to call it. We want to make sure we put the parents in the driver's seat of their children's education. We want to make sure that there's an option. We want to create that free market of education. A lot of people will be like, well, we don't want state dollars going to a private school or this or that. Well, we have food stamps, and Lieutenant Governor has used this analogy, and I've used it. Food stamps can be used anywhere. So why would we not give the parents the money and trust the parents with determining what education system, process, or institution is best for their children? I will continue to fight for that. I had a conversation with Leader Kilgore just this past week and said, Leader, if we get the majority, you better put something through the House and send it to the Senate, because we have that obligation to those who put us in the majority. And he said, you're right, we will have that obligation, and we'll make sure it gets done.
Excellent. Thank you so much. John?
Yep. Traveling around the state, there are a lot of people who would never vote Republican who are thinking about doing it this year because they are tired of what they're seeing in the schools. And the most important thing to them in life is the future of their children and their family. So I want to tell you, you should walk out of here with a lot of hope and a heck of a lot of energy. I am glad you are not woke, but I need you to be awake for the next month. And let's make sure that we deliver an election result and then we follow through in the legislature and in these school boards.
Thank you. That was 1 minute. That was perfect. Gold star.
I can do it when I'm really forced to. Yeah.
So you heard we do have an election coming up, and it is election not about us, it's about all of us. If you don't get out and vote, then this won't happen. If you don't encourage other people to get out and vote, it won't happen. We have the opportunity in America to choose our leaders, and so we must choose wisely. Yes, I've heard from so many who are not Republicans who have said, you know, I don't normally vote Republican, but I'm going to vote for you, and they'll point to their 2 children. I don't want my child to have to undress in front of boys or girls, for that matter. I just want them to learn. We want our children to launch into life. And of course, they're not going to get that if they don't have a good education. When we ran in 2021, I came back into politics after being gone for 20 years because I saw that our children, by the time they reached the 8th grade and took the NAEP test that we've been talking about, when it came to math, 37% of Asian children could not do math. 47% of white children 70% of Latino children, and this number brought tears to my eyes, 84% of black children could not do math by the 8th grade. And by the way, 85% of them were functionally illiterate. What are we talking about? Politics? No, we're talking about a life. And so that's why I ran, and I'm still running again, because our children must have a hope and a future. I don't care about politics. I care about our children. We don't want political ideology in our schools. We want them to be able to learn to read, write, arithmetic, history, STEM, all of that. Thank you all for coming, and God bless you.
So perfectly said. You all, how many people have already voted? Raise your hand. I know a lot of you are day of voters. You need to vote, but you need to take 10 people with you. And I know a lot of people don't like to knock doors. Find somebody to go knock doors with. You don't even have to have anything you don't have to have stuff to hand out, but I'm sure there's, avenues to get that too. Just knock on the doors, talk to your neighbors. Guys, you don't have to lose elections. You don't have to lose elections. These issues we're talking about today, polling at 85%. That means Republicans, Democrats, Independents agree. If they don't vote, 15%, is that the right math? 85 plus 15? Help me. I'm really tired. I want to make sure that was right. I was so passionate too. That means 15% of your state is going to control your education of your children. Just think about that. It's not okay. Go find as many people as you can to vote in this election. Thank you for coming out. We appreciate you. Have a good night.